Dad! Take her to the hospital. Mom is.
With a trembling voice, Andrew desperately pleads into his smartphone. I was crouched down due to the water breaking, unable to move from the spot. At times like this, a young child can only think of his father. But the reply that came back from John over the phone was cold.
I'm on a company trip, so I can't.
Saying that, John laughs with a smirk. The guy who frequently tells transparent lies such as company trip.
Help us.
Finally, Andrew started crying. Furious anger overwhelmed me. John abandoned me when my water broke. Moreover, ignoring Andrew's desperate plea was unforgivable. A week later, after a safe delivery, I was getting ready to go out. Then my phone rang. It was from John. As I was busy, Andrew answered the call for me.
Where's Mom?
Andrew said clearly.
We're about to bury right now.
What?
A flustered John.
What do you mean? Hey, Andrew.
Andrew ignored John's shouting and hung up the phone.
Let's go, Mom.
Right? We had a job to do. I took Andrew and headed to a certain place. What we were about to do was our little act of revenge. My name is Hannah Martinez. I'm a 33-year-old housewife. I live with my husband John and our 5-year-old son, Andrew. After John goes to work and Andrew goes to kindergarten, my days are filled with housework. When that's done, it's finally my time. I stream videos as a hobby. The content is simple, recipes and parenting tips, just little tidbits from a housewife. It started as a way to kill time. John had been living away from home for a solo work assignment, and I started this during my free time. But lately, I've gained more subscribers than I thought. Parenting and housekeeping hacks must resonate with my viewers, who are fellow moms. That's why even after John returned from the solo work assignment, I find time to keep streaming. Streaming these videos has become a small joy in my daily life. Then one day, I found out I was pregnant. We had been thinking about a second child, so this was welcome news. John and Andrew were happy too. Names for the baby, preparations for baby clothes. There was a lot to think about. Looking back, I was probably too excited about being pregnant again after so long. That's why I didn't notice sooner. The nightmare that was eating away at our family had already begun. It was a typical weekend morning. After breakfast, while John was on his smartphone, Andrew ran up to him.
Hey Dad, let's play treasure hunt.
Treasure hunt is one of Andrew's favorite games lately. We bury treasure somewhere and then John and I try to find it. It was a typical peaceful weekend. That's what I thought, but John quickly hid his smartphone and yelled with glaring eyes.
Shut up. Dad's busy. Go away.
His tone was so harsh that I couldn't help but speak up. Hey, there's no need to talk like that.
I'm dealing with work calls. I can't get anything done with all this noise.
Work? You're just fiddling with your phone on a weekend morning. John snapped back even more harshly at my words.
It's business communication. Work is piling up, you get that? You wouldn't understand. You're just a carefree housewife.
What's that supposed to mean? With a snort, John stormed out of the room. Feeling the tense atmosphere, Andrew began to cry. I rushed over to Andrew. I'm sorry, Andrew. Dad was probably just in a bad mood. But he wasn't always like this. Before the solo work assignment, he often looked after Andrew. Lately, John's attitude has clearly changed. He's sneaking around on his phone more often. Even when spoken to, he seems distracted. And he's been overly critical of me. He keeps belittling me, saying things like, carefree housewife, and you don't have the responsibilities I do at work. Maybe it's the stress from his job, but his behavior only seemed to escalate. One day, as soon as he came home, John entered the living room with a sour face. Then, he glared at Andrew's toys thrown in the corner.
Hey, haven't you cleaned this up?
I had just put the toys away in the toy box, but it seems I had forgotten some. Oh, sorry. As I hurried to clean up, John muttered,
Seriously, can't you even discipline your kid properly? I'm tired from work, and I come home to this mess.
Again, he threw a sarcastic remark.
Don't be mad.
With a tearful voice, Andrew cut in, standing in front of John, protecting me. But John coldly trampled on Andrew's tender heart. His expression turned indifferent.
Move it.
John glared at Andrew. With a click of his tongue, he stormed out of the room. His recent actions have been too much. I need to have a proper talk with him soon, I vowed to myself as I hugged the crying Andrew. The next evening, John came home. John, we need to talk.
What now? I'm tired. Make it quick.
His dismissive attitude was the same as always. I pressed on regardless. About your recent behavior. As I began to speak, John interrupted loudly.
Look, I'm going on a company trip with the employees for 2 weeks starting next week.
What? That's quite sudden. And for 2 weeks?
Yeah. It's more like a trip where the managers aim to develop new clients, with a bit of sightseeing mixed in. Seriously, I hate being dragged into these things.
I see.
I don't need dinner tonight. Good night.
Wait, we're not done talking. John ignored me and quickly went into the bedroom. We used to have a drink and chat about our day after Andrew went to bed. But now, the atmosphere for such moments is nowhere to be felt. John firmly closed the bedroom door, letting no one in. I sighed. Then, I finished up the remaining chores and turned on my computer. I started working on combining the narration with the video I shot the other day. It was the usual video editing I do. I used to stream simple household tips, but lately, it's been mostly about John. I created a segment called Troubles with My Husband, saying, lately, I feel like my husband has become distant. This type of content seems to have a surprising demand, as the views have increased from before. Today, I also briefly talked about the recent exchange with John. After posting the video, comments started trickling in.
Your husband is terrible.
He doesn't understand your struggles at all.
Receiving such empathetic comments somewhat calmed my spirits. But one comment caught my eye.
A sudden company trip. Sounds like an alibi for cheating.
Cheating. I had a faint feeling but had been ignoring it. Maybe it was really true. John's recent behavior has been inexplicable. Holding these troubling thoughts, I was doing housework one day. I was looking for receipts to update the household ledger. Let's see, they should be around here somewhere. I searched around but couldn't find them. As a last resort, I decided to check inside a smart chest in the living room. It's supposed to contain items related to Andrew's kindergarten, but maybe something was mistakenly placed there. Then, the bottom of the first drawer came off. What is this? Incredibly, there was a false bottom in the chest. This chest wasn't originally made like this. Someone had deliberately made it difficult to discover by modifying the bottom. It wasn't me. That left only John. A bad feeling washed over me as I looked inside and saw something unfamiliar. This is... My heart pounded like a drum. Taking a deep breath to calm myself, I booted up the computer. I decided to upload an urgent video. I wanted to hear viewers' opinions about what I had just found. I had my suspicions. but I needed confirmation. Soon, comments began pouring in, confirming my doubts. The week began, and it's Monday. John was gone for a while. On that company trip, well then, Andrew was at kindergarten and John wasn't coming back soon. I seized the opportunity to take action. Then came the weekend. Everything was almost ready. Now I was prepared for whenever John returned. That morning, as I was doing household chores as usual, I suddenly felt a pain in my belly. At the same time, I felt a warm sensation flowing down my lower body. Could it be? My water broke. I needed to get to the hospital immediately. As labor pains surged, I hurriedly finished dressing. Then, I packed necessary items like my insurance card, a change of clothes, and towels into a bag. Then, a sharp pain hit. I had been overconfident about still being able to move, but the pain was so severe that I crouched down on the spot. I tried to find my smartphone to call a taxi, but it was nowhere to be found.
Mom?
Amidst this, Andrew woke up. Andrew, the smartphone. I pleaded desperately. I could barely speak. Surprised, Andrew found my smartphone nearby and picked it up. Then, as if making a decision, he began to operate it frantically. He sometimes played games on my phone, so he seemed to know how to use it. Andrew yelled into the phone,
Help! Mom can't move. She looks in pain.
It appeared he was on a call. The phone was accidentally on speaker mode, so I could hear the other person's voice.
Damn it, Hannah. I'm in the middle of something. Huh? Is that you, Andrew?
Of all people, it was John on the other end of the line.
Dad, take her to the hospital.
Andrew desperately pleading. In times like these, a young child can only think of his father. But the reply from John was cold.
I'm on a company trip, so I can't.
Laughing off, John didn't seem to care.
Help. Please help.
Finally, Andrew broke down and cried. Amidst intense pain, I couldn't forgive him. It seemed like he didn't care even though I was suffering. What was worse, he completely ignored Andrew's desperate plea. After hanging up, Andrew called someone else.
Grandma. Grandma.
Hey, Andrew, what's wrong?
It seemed Andrew managed to calm my mother with his unsteady fingers. After that, I lost consciousness due to the pain. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. I was in bed, with my parents looking over me worriedly. As I regained consciousness, the pain returned, and I grimaced.
Hannah, are you okay? Andrew called us. He said his mom couldn't move. He told us desperately.
It seemed Andrew was quite upset, but he had fallen asleep from exhaustion. My mother said they had left him at the hospital's childcare.
Based on Andrew's call, we arranged for an ambulance.
He's amazing, only 5 years old.
My mother spoke solemnly.
And we tried contacting John, but no luck.
My father sighed. It seems like my parents tried calling John as well, but they couldn't reach him at all. They knew about the supposed company trip, but of course, that was likely not the case. He was probably enjoying himself. I was quietly fuming. This wouldn't just end here. But first, I had other things to deal with. After my parents left the room, doctors and nurses came in to prepare for the birth. After hours of labor, I gave birth to a girl. Her name is Melissa. Hearing Melissa's vigorous cries seemed to release me from all the tension. I fell asleep. When I woke up, a whole day had passed. Having slept, I felt somewhat better. I sent John an email informing him of the birth, but no reply came. Driven by his desires, he likely had no thoughts of his wife and child. As expected, It was infuriating. But he would face hell when he returned from his fun company trip. Imagining John's face then, I smirked. Thanks to my parents' care, I recovered well. On the day of my discharge, Andrew, who had been staying at my parents', came with them.
Hey Mom, are you all better now?
Andrew looked at me worriedly. Yeah, I'm all good now, I answered with a smile. I had caused so much worry lately. I hugged Andrew and stroked his head.
Hey, how about we play treasure hunt next time?
Andrew suggested innocently. Sure, it's been a while. What should we bury?
Well,
Andrew whispered secretly into my ear. I was so shocked by his words that I lost mine. A week later, my phone vibrated.
Mom, your phone is ringing.
Andrew called out. I was just getting ready to leave and replied, just leave it, I can't pick it up now. But Andrew stared at the screen and answered a call. From afar, I heard a muffled male voice. It seemed to be John.
Hey, Hannah. Oh, it's Andrew. I'm coming home tomorrow. Where's Mom?
We're about to bury.
What?
John sounded confused by Andrew's words.
What do you mean? Hey, Andrew.
Let's go, Andrew, I said to Hema, and Andrew smiled and hung up the call. We had a job to do. Andrew and I left to take care of some business. By the time we returned home, the sun had set. Postpartum, my body was completely exhausted. Since Andrew had fallen asleep, I left him and Melissa with my parents, who lived nearby. There was still something I needed to finish. I decided to wait for John's return. Early the next morning, the front door burst open.
Hannah, where are you?
A panicked John entered the living room. He hesitated, looking back and forth between me and the chest in the corner. I smiled. You're late. I just finished burying it yesterday.
What? What are you talking about? Andrew said something about burying too.
Burying? At my words, John turned pale. I know about the ring hidden there, planning to propose to your mistress. It even had your names engraved. How thoughtful. I pointed to the chest, and John turned even paler.
How did you?
I knew everything. It started with a video stream. I discussed my husband's recent odd behavior online, and viewers suggested he might be cheating. Then, that ring emerged from the false bottom of the chest. It was a brand new piece from a famous brand, engraved with both of their names. Could this be any more incriminating? After sharing this in a video, I was advised to hire a private detective. Especially if I was considering divorce, solid evidence would help in claiming alimony. Right after John left for his supposed company trip, I commissioned an investigation. The results confirmed my suspicions. John was indeed having an affair. The other woman was someone he met while on his solo assignment in a town where she worked at a bar. Her name was Rachel Gomez, 23 years old. Perhaps due to the loneliness of living alone, John started frequenting the bar. Eventually, their relationship became intimate. Such stories are common enough. Normally, these affairs end once the solo assignment period is over. But their relationship continued. Even after John returned, they secretly kept in touch. Eventually, he started being rude to me. Then, under the pretense of a company trip, he returned to his former assignment location to frolic with her. That ring was indeed intended for a proposal. He must have been quite smitten. A married man proposing to another woman is laughable. Did you rush back because you accidentally gave the wrong ring to your mistress, and she scolded you? John's face changed color at my words.
Was that your doing?
Yes, I had switched the ring hidden in that chest. I anticipated he would give it to his mistress during the trip, so I replaced it with my own wedding ring. That ring was one John had given me long ago. I was happy at the time, but I no longer needed such a thing.
What have you done? The ring is the wrong size, and it has your name engraved on it. Rachel was furious.
I know nothing about that. John frantically opened the chest and searched thoroughly.
Where is the real one? Where did you hide the real ring?
Didn't I tell you? I buried it.
What?
John was speechless at my words. Just then, the front door opened.
John, are you okay? Isn't it over yet?
Idiot. Stay out.
There stood Rachel. I had seen her face in photos provided by the detective agency, but in person, she was just a flashy young woman. She had foolishly followed John, probably upset over receiving a ring with the wrong name. John must have calmed her by saying, "The real one is at home." But unable to wait, Rachel decided to follow him. Such a ridiculous story played out in my mind.
So this is John's wife? Just an old lady.
She sneered, belittling me, thinking she could win by flaunting her youth. Her naivety made me involuntarily sigh. Oh, the mistress, Rachel Gomez, right? I heard you dropped out of trade school because you wanted money for fun and ended up working at a cheap bar? But no wealthy man took you seriously, so you settled for a married nobody, feeling triumphant over his wife. Is that right, Rachel?
What?
Rachel was struck speechless, hit right on the mark. I had already researched all this. In today's world, once you know someone's name, finding their social media is easy. A woman like Rachel, with a strong need for approval and a competitive spirit, is bound to be showcasing her history somewhere. Thinking this, I searched her social media and quickly uncovered Rachel's background. Rachel, defiant, retorted,
So what? I'm the one John loves. He proposed to me, and I got the ring I wanted. Just divorce him already.
I didn't need to be told. I'm planning on divorcing. I can't stay with someone like this anymore. John and I had been married for 5 years. We were blessed with a child, but his infidelity during his solo assignment, his disregard even during my pregnancy, and ultimately his treatment of me and Andrew. There's no point in continuing a marriage like this. Ever since I discovered the affair, I had decided to divorce him. By the way, aren't you going to look for that very important ring?
Where did you hide it?
Hide it? That sounds so sinister. Today, Andrew and I went for a walk at the beach for the first time in a while. We played a treasure hunt game there. It was so much fun. John's face turned pale at my words.
You didn't bury it there, did you?
He muttered, trembling, and then suddenly rushed outside.
Hey, John, where are you going?
Rachel followed him. I quickly stepped outside from the front door, too. The place we buried it was about a 20-minute walk away. I gripped my smartphone tightly and walked briskly. It was a local beach. Upon arrival, the two were frantically digging up various spots in the sand.
It's not here. Where the hell is it? It was an expensive ring.
What are you doing? Find it quickly.
They were panicking like fools. I leisurely filmed the scene with my smartphone. Apparently too distracted by their panic, they didn't notice me filming from a distance. The sight was so ridiculous. I couldn't help but burst into laughter. This beach was a place our family of 3 frequently visited. Here, we often played treasure hunt. Andrew would bury treasures in the sand, and John and I would search for them. The treasures varied, but were usually things Andrew treasured. Things like toy cars and cicada shells seemed like things boys would enjoy. However, today, the buried item was the real ring that John intended to give to Rachel. When Andrew recently said, "Let's play treasure hunt," and I asked, "What shall we bury?" he immediately replied,
"A ring."
I was startled, and Andrew explained,
"I know. Dad has been looking at a ring and smiling recently."
"What are you talking about?" Andrew had been observing John closely. John must have been daydreaming about his mistress while looking at the expensive ring he had splurged on.
"That ring is important to Dad, right? If we bury it, maybe he'll come back to find it. Maybe he'll come back to being the dad he used to be."
Andrew's eyes sparkled with hope. Andrew still doesn't understand. He doesn't realize that the ring was meant for someone John was having an affair with. He sees his father happy, so he naturally thinks it must be something very important. He hopes finding it might change his recently moody father back to the kind dad he used to be. Andrew's pure heart touched me deeply. And so, we had just buried the ring here on this beach. But John, now desperately searching for the ring, isn't thinking about his family at all. He's just trying not to upset Rachel. As I filmed, I realized tears were streaming down my face. I couldn't forgive John for destroying our family. It's a harsh reality for Andrew, but John is probably not coming back to us. Later, I went home to edit the footage. The video amusingly captured the two frantically searching for the ring. Thanks to the sound capturing app, I got perfect audio too. I blurred their faces at the end and added narration. Our family's history, the treasure hunts Andrew loved, and how John's selfish affair led to the family's breakdown. I kept all names anonymous. I clicked and uploaded the finished video. With the title, "I buried the ring my husband planned to give to his mistress." Instantly, the views shot up. Comments flooded in. "Your husband is the worst." "Poor kid," mostly condemning John and Rachel. As I scrolled through the comments, the exhausted pair returned.
"We finally found it, buried in the damn beach."
The ring is all dirty with sand now. What are you going to do about it?
They clamored noisily. John was holding the sandy ring and a tattered piece of paper.
"This paper was in there too. It's filthy."
He casually threw it in the trash without a second thought. "Don't you get it?" I said coldly, looking at John. I retrieved the paper from the trash and spread it out. It was crumpled, but it was a drawing by Andrew, with crayons. It showed our family of 4, all smiling. John seemed to realize what it depicted only after looking closely. He couldn't bear a word. John's face showed a complex mix of emotions. "This is Andrew's feelings. You trampled on his wish for a smiling, happy family, sneaking around, having an affair, neglecting your family. You are truly despicable. I can never forgive you." The living room fell silent at my loud voice. Rachel also looked guilty. I turned to her and said, "And don't think I forgive you either. You break a home and still have the nerve to look unaffected. I will fight against someone who hurts children, thoroughly." With that, I glared at them both.
Where's Andrew? How is the baby doing?"
John asked in a cracked voice, finally showing concern for his children. But it was too late. They're at my parents' house, considering you ignored Andrew and the baby while fussing over that ring. You have the nerve to ask that now. Well, you won't be seeing them anymore.
"That's outrageous. I am their father."
What? A father, after completely neglecting the kids and being engrossed in your affair? Who are you kidding? I don't even want to see your faces. Just get out. Both of them were completely intimidated by my fury.
Let's just go, John.
"All right. I'll leave for today. Hannah, I'll contact you when things have calmed down."
John and Rachel awkwardly left the house. retreating quietly. This will likely lead to divorce discussions. I'm determined not to lose. I clenched my fist as if to pump myself up. Later, although it took time, the divorce was finalized successfully. Despite John's cold head saying, "I want to make things right," I, of course, ignored him. It must have been just a momentary lapse of judgment. He would likely cheat again. It was obvious. As evidence, he seems to have started cohabiting with Rachel while talking about getting back together with me. He wanted to keep both me and Rachel, perhaps trying to maintain a good image as a father to Andrew and Melissa. There's no way I would allow that. Of course, I demanded a hefty alimony. John, desperate, asked to make payments in installments, but I refused that too. I demanded payment in full. Due to a concern I had, the video I uploaded went viral beyond expectation. It received millions of views and was spread by various media outlets. Even though I blurred everyone's identities, some viewers are skilled at identifying people from subtle clues. John and Rachel were identified from subtle clues such as the condition of the coastline and their reflections in the window glass. Articles started appearing one after another. Worst husband John Martinez works at Southern Trading. The mistress, Rachel Gomez, is a hostess at a bar, known for targeting married men in the past. Once it started, there was no stopping it. John's deeds became known to his company. Apparently, he had been neglecting his work because he was spending time at Rachel's place during his solo assignment. This led to his reassignment to this branch. Moreover, he had already used up his paid leave when he lied about the company trip to visit Rachel. He had lied about being ill to get his absences excused, which was eventually discovered. Naturally, John was fired. Once that happens, naturally, the paycheck won't come in. It was good that I had collected the alimony up front. Then there was child support. This was a concern, but John's parents agreed to pay it until John found a new job. However, John's reputation was now widely known, making reemployment difficult for a while. It was his own doing. I also demanded alimony from Rachel, but she had quit her job at the bar and wasn't working. In a panic, Rachel and John started uploading couple videos, attempting to capture their daily lives. It was meant to stream the daily lives of couples, but it ended up fueling the fire. Couple of homewreckers, the worst. Shameful. These two are unbelievably thick-skinned. They were criticized heavily and soon stopped. Perhaps they thought it would be as easy as my video had made it seem. Without proper planning and merely trying to earn money, they were bound to fail. Thus, it turned out to be right to secure the alimony upfront from Rachel's parents. However, they told her, "This is the last time we help you." Dependent on John and with the couple videos not working out, their relationship deteriorated, and they soon broke up. It was a rather thin bond, I mused dispassionately. Initially, John was ecstatic about being liked by a younger woman, and for Rachel, the sense of taboo in being involved with someone else's partner was fueling each of their romances. But once the magic wore off, all that was left was reality. The fleeting emotions cost them both dearly. Meanwhile, my channel has become incredibly popular. I'm busy with consultations from other moms dealing with infidelity, and I've been approached by companies for collaborations, now active as an influencer. I enjoy making videos, and the comments from viewers give me strength daily. Additionally, my income, which was once meager, has significantly increased. With that money, I renovated and expanded my parents' house. Now, the 5 of us, including my parents and the kids, live there. My parents are delighted to see their grandchildren up close. Andrew has grown up and become much stronger recently. Melissa's also growing up healthy and plays well with Andrew. There's just one thing that bothers me. I haven't let John meet the kids since then. Of course, I haven't spoken to Andrew about the ugly adult realities, but I wonder if he really understands. However, to my surprise, Andrew seems unconcerned.
Dad, I'm over it. He didn't help even when Mom was suffering. I don't need someone that horrible.
His clear words startled me. No matter how young, children keenly observe their parents.
From now on, I'll play treasure hunt with Melissa,
Andrew said with an innocent smile. I felt a deep sense of relief. John may be gone, but in his place, Melissa has come into our lives. Seeing the children's lively spirits is an irreplaceable joy. Now, if we can continue to live together happily as a family, that would be the greatest happiness.
Shall we just call it off today?
What are you talking about? We've come all this way, so just give up. Pete was reluctant to take his checkup today. While I persuaded him, I wondered if he was nervous about a new doctor. As we were discussing, Pete's name was called, and I helped him to the examination room.
Rachel, wait outside for me.
Are you sure?
Just rest while I'm being examined.
With that, I was pushed out of the examination room. I waited in the waiting room, and soon a nurse came and brought Pete back.
Mrs. Perry, please come this way.
Then, for some reason, only I was called by the nurse to a separate room. Well, what's going on? I asked the doctor hesitantly in the separate room.
Go to the police immediately.
What?
If you don't.
I was shocked by the words he uttered. And so, I quickly started moving to act. I am Rachel Perry, a 28-year-old housewife. I have a husband, Pete, and an 8-year-old daughter, Emily. However, Emily and I are not related by blood. This is my first marriage, but Pete is divorced, and Emily is his child from his previous marriage.
Are you sure it's okay? After all, I have a child and I myself.
Pete hesitated. Don't worry about it. I replied with a smile. Pete is blind. He used to see, but apparently he lost his sight protecting his ex-wife during an accident. I met him through work. I draw webcomics, and one day I received a request, could you create something based on this story? It was a novel written by Pete.
I want everyone to know that there are things you can still do, even if you can't see. Besides, I have to work and raise Emily.
The story, filled with his emotions, detailed his life after becoming blind. Moved by his words, I was more than happy to adapt it into a comic.
The author of the novel would really like to meet you.
I received a message from the editor, and we arranged to meet at a cafe. With the help of his daughter Emily, Pete arrived. He smiled gently, a calm presence, and I was quickly drawn to him. I want to be your eyes to help you.
I've wanted to be with you too. Your voice is so comforting.
He told me he fell in love with my voice, and that's how we started dating. Hey, Emily, would you be okay with me being your mom?
Yes.
With Emily's consent, we decided to get married. My parents were concerned about Pete being blind and having a child from a previous marriage.
But if you've decided, we'll support you.
That's right. But remember, you can always rely on us.
In the end, they supported me. They reassured me that they'd always be there to help, allowing me to enter marriage with peace of mind. Emily, dinner's ready.
Thank you very much.
Emily replies politely to me. We've been living together since we started dating, but she hasn't opened up to me yet. Well, it can't be helped. It's not easy to instantly accept a woman, once a stranger, as a mother. I hope she'll come to accept me in time.
Well,
That smells good.
Just as Emily was about to speak, Pete walked in, guided by the wall. Startled, she flinched. Pete, are you okay? The table is this way. I was concerned about Emily, but I needed to assist Pete.
I'm off.
In that moment, Emily had left for elementary school. By the time I turned around, she was gone, and I could only hear the door closing. Sighing, I remained thoughtful.
Something wrong.
Sorry, I was just thinking about how hard it's been to get closer to Emily. At my words, Pete looked a bit troubled. Seeing that, I quickly tried to explain myself. I explained that I understood it wouldn't be an immediate acceptance and believed that it would surely be resolved over time.
Thanks for caring. Maybe Emily is still wary of the idea of a mother.
Julie Kelly, the ex-wife and the real mother of Emily. When she found out Pete was blind, she left him and their daughter behind. Emily was abandoned by her real mother. Emily might be harboring such thoughts and is likely wary of me as I try to become her new mother. That's what Pete suspects.
Sorry, but I ask for your patience over time.
Of course, that's my intention. At Pete's words, I smile, even though I know he can't see it.
Thank you.
Pete said with a smile in return. Shall we have breakfast? Let's eat well and get ready for work.
Sounds good.
We both work from home, but we have separate offices. This way, we keep to our own schedules.
Rachel, are you going to be cooped up in your room all day?
Yeah, I plan to. I'll only come out for meals.
Got it. Just don't overdo it.
At his words, I nodded with a smile and headed to my office. I wonder what kind of work Pete is doing. We make it a point not to interfere with each other during work hours. Therefore, I don't know what Pete does during his work time. He used to write books using Braille, but I haven't heard anything about that lately. Well, my earnings are enough for us to live on, so it's not a problem. There must be struggles I can't even imagine. I think it's enough just to watch over him. With a thought, I decided to focus on my work. A few days later, I'm driving with Pete to a hospital that takes several hours to reach.
Rachel, I know you're busy, but thank you.
Don't worry about it. I just want to help you. Honestly, it would be better to go to a major hospital closer to home. However, Pete insists on this particular hospital.
There's a childhood friend of mine working here as a doctor who knows my situation well.
Pete reconnected with his childhood friend during an accident when he was brought to this hospital. Since then, she's been very supportive, even after his ex-wife Julie left him and their daughter behind.
That's why I've decided she should be the one to see me.
The doctor is a woman?
Yes.
I had always assumed this childhood friend was a man. Finding out she was a woman made me feel a bit uneasy. Even though it's just a medical consultation and their relationship is strictly doctor-patient. The fact that he goes out of his way to see a female childhood friend for hours bothers me. What kind of person is this childhood friend?
She's kind. She gets along well with her husband.
Knowing she was married put me at ease. Married people are less likely to do anything inappropriate. We then entered the hospital together.
Is this the first time we meet Mrs. Perry? I'm Anna West, Pete's attending doctor.
Anna introduced herself with a gentle smile. She was very beautiful and definitely seemed kind.
Being a wife can be tough, and adjusting to a new lifestyle can be tiring. I'm here to listen if you ever need to talk.
I felt ashamed for almost being jealous. What a reliable, kind person. I had such an impression of her.
Shall we exchange contact information?
When Anna suggested it, I happily agreed. However, that might have been a mistake. Oh, a message from Anna. That night, a message from her appeared on my phone.
Are you and Pete really doing okay? Pete has it tough. You need to be strong.
What is this? The content was puzzling. Not something I expected from the doctor I met earlier in the day. I consulted Pete without thinking.
She's always been overly protective, trying to be a big sister to me. That's probably why she sent such a message.
According to Pete, she has always acted like Pete is my responsibility. She was very worried when he remarried, especially because of Julie's situation. That might explain why she was a bit cold to me.
If she sees I'm living happily, she'll probably be reassured.
Then I better make sure we are happy, I said with a laugh.
That's right.
Pete laughed along. Emily watched us, seemingly wanting to say something. Emily, is something wrong?
Nothing.
When I asked Emily, she glanced briefly at Pete and shook her head.
I'm going to bed early.
She then went to her room.
I wish Emily would smile a bit more.
I overheard Pete mutter. I turned to him, and Peter turned his head. Seeing him like this, I felt a slight discomfort. Can you tell Emily's expression?
Yo, we're family after all. I can tell by the sound of her voice.
Pete said, smiling. It makes sense. After 8 years together, he might indeed sense her mood from her voice alone. But why could he respond to me turning around silently? Just a coincidence?
Something wrong, Rachel?
No, it's nothing. Pete asked with concern, possibly sensing my distress or wondering why I had fallen silent. To him, I shook my head. I'm probably just overthinking it. I convinced myself of that.
Well, Rachel?
On a rare day off, surprisingly, Emily initiated a conversation. Surprised, I managed to keep a smile on my face so she wouldn't notice. What's up?
This. When Dad isn't around.
She handed me a piece of paper. I took the paper from her.
Please make sure Dad doesn't see this.
She left hurriedly. I heard the front door close, so she must have gone out. Probably to a friend's house, as she mentioned earlier. What's this? On it was a certain number.
Rachel, has Emily already left?
As I pondered the meaning of the number, Pete called out to me. I quickly hid the paper in my pocket. Yes, she's already gone.
It seemed a bit hurried.
Isn't that more childlike? I hope she can act that way in front of me someday.
That would be good.
Pete chuckled at my words. He didn't seem to notice what I had hidden. What's up with you, Pete? Aren't you off today? Typically, Pete rests until nearly noon on his days off. I hadn't expected him to be up this early.
I was thinking, if it's not too much for you, maybe we could go for a walk together.
Pete invited me with a gentle smile. That sounds nice. I want to feel refreshed.
You're such a hard worker, Rachel. Just don't overdo it.
Pete probably thinks I'm busy with work. But it's not work that makes me tired. It's the messages from Anna that are tiring me out.
Don't bother Pete.
Since then, her messages have kept coming. It's okay. We're supporting each other. At first, I replied, but as the messages became daily, I've started to ignore them. It's been a while since we went for a walk, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
During the walk, I memorized the number Emily had given me and disposed of the paper, hoping I wouldn't need to use that number. A few days later, it was time for Pete's regular checkup, and I drove him to the usual hospital hours away.
Isn't off today.
Yes, she's caught that contagious disease that's going around.
The difference this time was that Anna was off. However, there were other competent doctors, so we saw one of them instead. It was good that our long trip wasn't wasted. I thought so, but Pete seemed to feel differently.
If she's not here, maybe we should call it a day.
What? Pete suddenly started talking, and I turned around without thinking. What are you talking about? It's just a routine checkup. We have to go through with it. Besides, we've come all this way. Let's make the most of it. Hearing that, Pete made a face of displeasure. I soothed him and made him sit down in the waiting room chair.
Can't we just skip it today?
What are you saying? We're already here. Just give up. He was particularly reluctant about the checkup today. While I persuaded him, I wondered if he was nervous about a new doctor. Then Pete's name was called, and I helped him as we headed to the examination room.
Rachel, wait outside for me.
Are you sure?
Just take a rest while I'm getting examined.
With that, I was pushed out of the examination room. As I waited in the waiting room, Pete soon returned with a nurse.
Mrs. Perry, this way, please.
For some reason, I was the only one called by the nurse and was taken to another room. Well, is there something wrong? In the separate room, I cautiously asked the doctor.
Go to the police right now.
What?
If you don't, you'll end up being used and then discarded.
I was stunned by the words he uttered. And to act immediately, I started moving. After a while, Pete contacted me on my phone.
Rachel, where on earth did you go?
Me? I'm at the police station now with Emily and Julie. Pete, taken aback by my words, remained silent for a moment.
Why?
He murmured in a faint voice. Dr. Watson told me about your truth. At that time, the person who told me the truth was a Dr. Marcus Watson.
Pete can see.
What are you saying?
Moreover, he's not the kind-hearted person you think he is.
Dr. Watson, who had called me in, told me this. His words honestly left me bewildered.
I understand it's hard to believe, but haven't you ever had any suspicions yourself?
As he said this, what came to my mind was, Pete's recent behavior. He reacted immediately to my actions, even though he was supposed to be blind. He moves around our familiar home without any help and gets dressed perfectly. What bothers me the most is his relationship with Emily. Emily is always conscious of his gaze, and whenever I talk to her, Pete quickly intervenes. It's as if he's monitoring her movements. There are indeed some worrying signs.
He's showing you a false persona. He's conspiring with Dr. West to deceive you.
Indeed, if Pete's blindness were a lie, it would be odd for Anna not to notice. Perhaps she's been helping him because they're childhood friends?
Anna and Pete are having an affair.
What? It seems Anna was helping Pete not just because they are acquaintances, but because they are in a relationship. The more I heard, the more I learned that their affair began around the time of Julie, and she had realized it. Since Julie was a nurse, she had consulted more closely with Dr. Watson and others about it.
Just as Julie was about to confront them, I heard that Julie and Pete were in an accident.
Those words gave me an awful feeling. I hate to think it, but
I believe Pete was involved in causing that accident.
Dr. Watson told me firmly.
Afterward, she went back to her hometown, and we've lost contact. I hear that Emily was taken in by Pete.
Yes, she is actually living with me now.
It seems likely that Pete took in Emily to assess child support and to gauge how much truth she knows.
He probably came to check on me while I was talking to you because of that situation. Emily must have sensed it too, which is why she kept her distance from me and tried to escape from Pete. Honestly, I can't believe it, but there are parts that I do understand.
I wish we could get in touch with his ex-wife, but it seems she's changed her contact information.
His words reminded me of a number Emily had given me. Actually, Emily gave me a certain phone number, and so I decided to call that number to find out the truth. As I expected, it was Julie who answered the phone. When I told Pete this, he fell silent. Ignoring Pete, I continued the conversation. It seems she was under surveillance from your parents. Still, she wanted to keep in touch with her daughter, so she gave Emily a contact number for a phone you guys didn't know about. Emily herself doesn't have a smartphone, and since Pete is watching the landline, she couldn't use it. I was the only one she could likely contact. That's why Emily gave me the phone number. Being a nurse, she's very observant. She found a time when your parents' surveillance was lax and escaped.
What are you doing?
Pete's voice was irritated like I had never heard before. It seems his true nature had been revealed. I immediately contacted Emily's school, and now we are all at the police station. A mother and daughter are having an emotional reunion right in front of me. Seeing them together almost made me cry.
Stop meddling.
What's meddling about this? I did what any decent person would do.
Thank you so much.
Both Julie and Emily told me this, crying. What I felt then was intense anger. Anger at the selfish reasons for separating a mother and daughter, at the deceit committed for personal gain. And the novel that had moved me was all based on lies. Knowing this fact, I was so filled with anger and shock that I went numb. She has evidence that your parents confined her, and if we have Dr. Marcus Watson's medical report, we can prove that the disability benefits you were receiving because you are blind are fraudulent.
Why would you do that? Weren't you enjoying our life together?
Indeed, I had felt happiness in our life together. Above all, I married Pete because I loved him. Yes, and you were laughing at me, weren't you? With that, Pete fell silent again. Before going to the police station, I stopped by our house and peeked into his office. I thought maybe I would find evidence of infidelity. What I found was, you were not working at all and were just teaming up with Anna to make a fool out of me.
The
message described me as obtuse and naive, easy to manipulate.
Why did you choose such a woman?
For the money.
I was chosen because as a webcomic artist, I was making good money. You thought it was simple to move me with your novels. I was really underestimated, wasn't I?
It can't be helped.
Pete said. What can't be helped? I pondered this. He started talking without being asked.
I really didn't want to do this, but I desperately needed the money. Besides, the only person I truly love is Rachel.
Do you think I can believe that? You even plan to get rid of me?
What? You sir that too?
Yes, besides the messages with Anna, he had made arrangements to eliminate me. Pete, who had been living a luxurious life without working by taking alimony from his ex-wife. He couldn't forget such a lifestyle and was looking for a new source of income. It was me. As a webcomic artist with earnings and working from home, it was easy for Pete to keep an eye on me. Make it look like an accident once you got bored of me. Is it right?
That was just a joke. I wasn't serious.
It didn't seem like a joke to me. That's why we all rushed to the police. I went to the police fearing for my life and to expose the fraud by Pete and Anna. Emily was there to be protected from Pete, and Julie was filing a complaint for the defamation spread by her previous confinement and lies. It's over for you. The police are on their way to your place now.
Damn it.
Pete muttered in panic at those words.
It's no use running away.
I heard Dr. Watson's voice, indicating Pete had failed in his attempt to flee. It looks like it's over. I hung up the phone after hearing the police's voices. The police were likely heading to Anna's place, who was recuperating at home, and to his parents' place as well. It's all right now, I assured Emily.
Thank you for letting me see my mom.
She replied with a beaming smile. Seeing her smile for the first time made me very happy. Later, I heard that Emily and her mom really went back to Julie's parents' home. Her parents' home is a plane ride away, making it difficult for Pete to reach them. Leave that man to me. I'll make sure he faces the consequences. I reassured them with those words, and it seemed to give them some peace of mind. Emily and her mom returned home with smiles. Meanwhile, Pete ended up in the care of the police. The plan to harm me had not been executed yet, leading to insufficient evidence. However, the matter of the benefits and Julie's situation was judged as malicious. Pete was given a prison sentence.
Is that so? That's good to hear.
Today, I met with Dr. Watson to report about Pete. When I reported it, he smiled in relief. What about Dr. West?
She's been charged for writing false medical reports.
Dr. Watson explained Dr. Anna West's current situation. She seems to have been stripped of her medical license because of this incident. She's been ousted from the hospital, of course.
Also, It was discovered that she had inappropriate relations with multiple patients and was taking supplies home without permission. So the hospital is filing various claims against her.
Furthermore, her husband has been informed of everything, and she was divorced without question. Well, she brought it upon herself.
Rachel, you were divorced as well, weren't you?
Yes, of course. My divorce from Pete was successfully finalized. A lawyer mediated between us, and I blocked all contact with him. Thanks to that, I was able to divorce him without any issues.
I'm really glad we could at least help you.
He said that and smiled. It seems he had been regretting not being able to help Julie before. Just as he was grappling with those feelings, he saw me with Pete. Because of that, he had been working behind the scenes, determined to help me this time.
There was no evidence that Anna West and Pete were conspiring together. So I was waiting for the right moment to expose the truth about his eyes.
To see through Pete's lies, I had to examine him first. However, Anna always took care of Pete herself and never let other doctors do it. So he was waiting for the right opportunity, and finally it came.
No matter how good his acting was, he couldn't deceive a doctor's eyes.
He said, smiling as if he had accomplished a great feat. I'm really grateful. If you hadn't told me the truth that day, I might not be in this world right now. I said, expressing my heartfelt thanks.
Thank you for trusting me.
Dr. Watson smiled. Some time had passed. I received a message from Anna on my smartphone. I forgot to block her. Dozens of calls and messages.
My life is a complete mess because of you.
That's what the message said. You tried to take someone's life first. You have no right to complain. Saying that, I didn't reply and just blocked the number. Currently, I'm back at my parents' house. They probably don't know where that is, so I should be safe here for a while.
Rachel, it's almost time for dinner. How's your work going?
Thanks, Mom. I just reached a good stopping point. I smiled and headed to join my mom. Afterward, a piece of news became the talk of the town. It was about the famous webcomic author arrested for fraud. My webcomic had become widespread and was scheduled to be adapted into a TV program soon. However, it was discovered that the entire content was fabricated and the TV adaptation plans were scrapped. As the creator of the webcomic, I faced some criticism. But the editorial staff and the hospital defended me, so now I'm seen as a victim who was deceived. When Pete gets out, he'll find he has no place to go. He had been deceiving everyone around him. Now, he must face the consequences. Years later, after all that had happened, I had already left my parents' house, but that day I had stopped by my parents' house to run errands. Then the doorbell rang. Yes.
It's been a while, Rachel. I've come to pick you up.
Standing there was Pete, who had given up his act of being blind. I was relieved that I checked the monitor before opening the door, and without asking, he started explaining his situation. He was arrested over the issue with Julie, had borrowed money to repay the disability benefits, and his parents had moved because they were shunned by the neighbors and couldn't return to their own home.
You're all I have left, Rachel. Let's be happy together.
No thanks. I flatly rejected his plea. Pete's face showed he was hurt. His attitude, as if he were the victim, is irritating.
It's your fault all of this happened. Don't you think you should take responsibility?
I don't think so. I'm not responsible for any of this. It's all the result of your own actions, isn't it?
But
Despite my rejection, Pete still tried to cling to me. Exasperated by his behavior, I was about to call the police.
What are you doing there?
Someone called out to him. Pete turned around in surprise.
you, the doctor.
There stood Dr. Watson with an angry expression, along with my parents.
Did you come to cling to her? That's quite pathetic.
Shut up. If you hadn't meddled in the first place.
I only did what was right, as a doctor and as a person.
While Pete glared, Dr. Watson responded calmly, albeit angrily. Watching them, I called the police.
Your selfishness has inconvenienced many people. If anyone should take responsibility, it's you.
Damn it.
Pete then tried to lash out at Dr. Watson.
Enough already.
However, he was stopped by my dad. Having learned karate in his youth, and since Pete hadn't been physically active due to pretending to be blind for years, my dad easily restrained him.
Damn it. Let go.
Pete yelled, but my dad didn't let go, and soon the police I had called took him away.
Rachel, are you all right?
Yes, thank you. After Pete was gone, I answered him with a smile. With that, he smiled, relieved.
He sprinted over as soon as he saw that guy.
Really, I feel safe leaving her with him.
My parents watched us with amused smiles. Yes, in fact, we are engaged. After the incident with Pete, we found we shared a lot in common, and after his confession, we started dating.
Yes, I'll take care of her.
He nods in assurance.
We trust you.
My parents nod in agreement.
Well, now that we've finished moving the stuff, let's celebrate in our new home.
Actually, today I had come to help my parents move. It was intended as a measure against Pete, but it was a little too late. Well, I got to see my fiancé's impressive side, and next time Pete comes, he'll experience the despair of finding no one here. Let's go.
Right.
As I nod, he offers his hand. I take it with a smile. Some time has passed since then, and today is my second wedding.
Rachel, you look beautiful.
Thank you, Emily. Emily and her mother have come especially for the ceremony and are showering us with blessings. I couldn't become her mother, but just seeing her full smile is enough. Enjoy today.
Yeah. Congratulations on your marriage.
To her smile, I respond with a heartfelt one of my own.
Hey, what time do you think it is now?
Looking at the clock, it's only 5:30. It's still 5:30. Why are you up so early like this? I replied with sleepy eyes, but Jeff kept on relentlessly.
What do you mean it's still 5:30? It's common sense for the wife to wake up earlier than the husband, wear makeup, and prepare breakfast.
I doubted my ears hearing such shouting in the morning from Jeff. I wonder which era we're in right now. It's like lines from a mean mother-in-law in an old drama. Since marrying Jeff, we have separate bedrooms and absolutely no intimacy at night. Then, one day, Jeff collapsed at work and had to be rushed to emergency surgery. While waiting outside the operating room, I heard a young doctor scream.
What on earth is this?
Through this surgery, I would come to learn Jeff's surprising secret. And also, how difficult my own position really is now. I realized that I could not go on as I was, and with the help of others, I recovered my true self. My name is Sarah. I'm a 42-year-old homemaker assisting with a small business. Back when I was single, I worked as a caregiver at a hospital. I had a fulfilling job, but I was the only one who wasn't married among my friends. Both of my parents had already passed away, leaving me alone at home and feeling pressured to get married. Then one day, while feeling lonely at a bar, a man approached me.
Well, is this seat taken?
That's what the man who would become my current husband, Jeff, said as he approached. Jeff is 3 years older than me and runs a small manufacturing company independently. Listening to his story, it seemed he was also single like me, without a significant other. As we shared stories about our lives, we hit it off. As two mature single individuals, I had hoped for a somewhat romantic evening, but that day I made him promise to see him next and went home early. After that, our relationship naturally began, and we went on dates once a week. Dates with Jeff, who was serious and reserved, consisted mainly of quiet conversations in cafes or parks. However, I gradually found myself drawn to his seemingly good-natured personality. And it was on our third date since we met.
Well, considering our age and all, it's not really ideal to just keep dating aimlessly, right?
Watching Jeff nervously fidget as he spoke, I felt a slight sense of anticipation. Well, you see.
Yeah, we've only been dating for less than a month, but since we're close in age and all, I was thinking, why don't we get married? Is that okay?
It was definitely an unusual proposal, but I was also feeling pressured about marriage, and I thought Jeff was a good guy, so I replied with a quick yes without hesitation. No, not at all, I'd be happy to. Upon my immediate acceptance, Jeff beamed with delight. Since neither of us had parents, we decided to skip the wedding ceremony and just register our marriage. I quit my job to help out at Jeff's company after we got married, and thus began married life with Jeff. However, it was also the start of days filled with anguish. From the time we met until we got married, there had been no physical intimacy between Jeff and me. I had assumed Jeff, being a serious person, simply didn't engage in relationships casually. I believed that once we were married, we could enjoy a reasonably normal married life. That's what I believed, but on the first day of our marriage, Jeff had an unexpected commitment.
I'll sleep in the bedroom, so Sarah, you sleep in the guest room.
Jeff's statement surprised me, and I couldn't help but respond with a voice of discontent. So you mean we separate sleeping, even though we're newlyweds? Even when I questioned it, Jeff calmly asserted his opinion without batting an eye.
Well, you see, I have trouble sleeping in the same room as others.
Despite feeling dissatisfied with his explanation, I didn't want to argue on the first day, so I couldn't say anything more. The next morning, I had set my alarm for 6 o'clock, but I was startled awake by sudden loud voices.
Hey, what time do you think it is now?
Looking at the clock, it's only 5:30. It's still 5:30. Why are you up so early like this? I replied with sleepy eyes, but Jeff continued relentlessly.
What do you mean it's still 5:30? It's common sense for the wife to wake up earlier than the husband, wear makeup, and prepare breakfast.
Hearing Jeff shouting like that in the morning made me doubt my ears. I wondered what era we were living in. It sounded like lines from a mean mother-in-law in an old drama. I fought that, but when I looked at Jeff's face, it was a frightening expression I had never seen before. Feeling that I couldn't oppose it, I quickly changed and started preparing the meal. It might be obvious, but even if we have separate bedrooms, we eat together. As we sat around the dining table facing each other, something caught my attention. Even though it was already July, Jeff was wearing a long-sleeved sweater. I wondered if I needed to prepare summer clothes for him, and decided to ask Jeff about it. "I'll have your summer clothes ready soon." In response to my question, Jeff, seemingly choking on his food, hastily coughed and said,
"No, I dress like this all year round, so I'm fine with summer clothes. I'm sensitive to the cold, you know. In the upcoming season, it's easy to get chilled with the air conditioning, right?"
If he's sensitive to the cold, then it makes sense. Still, there's no need to rush like that. It seemed somewhat unnatural, but I didn't know how to respond. Since then, despite going to work in the morning to help at the company, Jeff tells me, be back home by evening to prepare dinner, so I return home early. Jeff gives detailed instructions not only about meals but also about cleaning and laundry, so I don't have time to relax even when I come home early. I clean every corner of the house, neatly fold the dry laundry, and tidy up. And since getting married, it's become my routine to prepare dinner and take a bath before Jeff returns. Jeff is the old-fashioned type of husband who doesn't lift a finger to help around the house. I understand he's busy as a manager, but I wish he'd lend a hand with the housework at least a little. But if I say anything that might bother Jeff, he might start yelling again. As I was preparing dinner, I found myself thinking, why did I even get married? Since then, our bedrooms have been separate, so there hasn't been any intimacy at night. I don't feel happy at all, even though we got married with such hopes. Perhaps I've not only lost happiness, but also lost sight of my true self. Feeling overwhelmed by these thoughts, tears began to flow uncontrollably from my eyes. As I sat there, quietly crying to myself, my phone rang around 5 in the evening. It was a call from one of my female co-workers.
"Hey, Sarah. It's urgent. The boss suddenly collapsed, so please head to the hospital right away."
I was speechless upon hearing this. Sensing my distress, the coworker calmly informed me of the hospital's name. Trying to compose myself, I thanked him and immediately called for a taxi. I arrived at the hospital and was shown to the procedure room where Jeff was. I was instructed to wait outside the door, so I took a seat on the chair placed there. The door to the treatment room opened, and a seasoned physician, about the same age as Jeff, emerged from within. I stood up and approached the doctor. "Excuse me, I'm Jeff's wife. How is my husband's condition?"
"Oh, you're his wife. Your husband's condition is stable, but he needs to be hospitalized immediately for surgery."
"Really? I see. Well, thank you very much." After exchanging greetings with the doctor, I left for home without seeing Jeff, only completing the hospitalization and surgery procedures. Normally, I should have stayed by his side. The doctors and nurses might have thought I was being cold-hearted, but I just couldn't bring myself to accompany Jeff, with whom I hadn't connected emotionally. On the day of the surgery, instead of being present for Jeff before the operation, I visited the hospital around the time the surgery was beginning. As I waited outside, I heard screams coming from the operating room.
Yikes, what on earth is this?
What are you saying? You must be a doctor.
Was it the assistant doctor who was screaming? The attending physician said to the young doctor, who seemed frightened, trying to calm him down. Nevertheless, the young doctor responded in a voice that seemed on the verge of trembling.
Even if you say that, this is the first time I've ever seen such an amazing tattoo. What should I do?
Don't panic. It won't affect the surgery.
What on earth was all the commotion about? The voices were so loud that they could be heard outside the operating room. I vaguely remembered something about a tattoo being mentioned. While the assistant seemed unreliable, I felt reassured by the confident demeanor of the attending physician and waited for the surgery to finish. And a few hours later, the surgery was over, and 2 doctors came out. One was the young doctor in his mid-20s who had screamed earlier. He seemed to want to say that he had seen something unpleasant. The other was the attending physician, a senior doctor whom I had greeted yesterday. The attending physician had a somewhat pitiful expression as he looked at the young doctor. Certainly, the young doctor seemed like a sheltered son of a wealthy family, if you put it kindly. I stood up and looked at the senior doctor. Beside him, the young doctor bowed deeply to me with an apologetic look and said,
I'm sorry. It's about your husband's tattoo on his back.
Hey, cut it out.
I didn't quite understand what the two were talking about. Especially, the words of the young doctor caught my attention. You've been talking about the tattoo since earlier. What does that mean? Both of them widened their eyes at my question.
Oh, madam. It's about that large demon tattoo on your husband's back. It covers his entire back, doesn't it?
I couldn't hide my surprise at the unexpected reply from the young doctor. So that was the reason Jeff had separate bedrooms. The senior doctor had a calm expression.
I apologize for the trouble. The surgery went well. Your husband is okay now.
Thank you. Can I talk to my husband now?
Yes, if you could wait for a while.
After being told so, I waited for a while and was then guided into the treatment room. There, Jeff was lying awake from anesthesia and dressed in a hospital gown. Upon noticing me, Jeff made an awkward expression.
Well, you've seen something you shouldn't have. I didn't want Sarah to see. Why are you here without being called?
Jeff's blunt attitude left me unable to even say, "Are you okay?" Perhaps Jeff is feeling uneasy about having been found out for hiding the tattoo all this time. Although the demon tattoo on his back isn't visible, it's clear around his shoulders from the hospital gown. But why did Jeff think he could hide such a large tattoo? Although I was curious, considering it was after the surgery, I thought it could wait and didn't ask anything. Jeff, still sulking, kept his head down. The young doctor asked me, "Aren't you going to say anything to your husband?" while looking at Jeff and me alternately with a puzzled expression. I didn't know what to say at a time like this. Then Jeff spoke up.
Sarah, If you don't have any business here, go home already.
What?
Your gloomy face makes it feel like a wake, and I don't like it. If you get it, get the hell out of here.
The way Jeff spoke made the young doctor furrow his brow and tilt his head in confusion. The doctor may be genuinely wondering if these two are a couple. All right, since there's nothing much I can do here, I'm heading home now, I said, and ultimately, I left the hospital as Jeff had instructed. On the way back, feeling reluctant to return home right away, I decided to eat out. As I was walking out of the restaurant, a man called out to me from behind.
Sarah.
I looked back and saw Alex, the attending physician who Jeff had taken care of earlier, standing there. Alex in his suit seems to be on his way home after work. Hi, thank you for earlier. I was about to thank Alex for today's surgery, but he started off as if to interrupt me.
I thought Jeff had such a good wife, but it seems there's something fishy going on.
Apparently, Jeff and Alex have known each other for a while. What do you mean?
Well, pardon my bluntness, but seeing you, I had a feeling something was off. Normally, if a husband collapses at work and needs emergency hospitalization, his wife would accompany him, right?
I'm sorry if we caused any inconvenience to the hospital, I said, thinking I had caused trouble for the hospital. However, Alex shook his head in response to my words and continued.
No, it's not like that. It's just that you seemed unaware of his tattoo.
Alex seems to know something about Jeff's tattoo. I was curious and asked him for details. Alex revealed that he and Jeff were classmates in middle school. Apparently, Jeff had been quite bad since 8th grade, riding around on motorcycles with his gang. Jeff hardly ever came to school. During that time, Jeff had gotten a large demon tattooed on his back, supposedly to intimidate others. Alex, who was the student council president at the time, couldn't tolerate such misconduct from his classmate.
We were in the same class in freshman year. We weren't that close, but Jeff wasn't supposed to be a bad guy from the start,
Alex said, seeming to want to somehow rehabilitate the originally serious Jeff. Alex then got into the bad boy gang Jeff was hanging out with and tried desperately to get Jeff to change his mind.
Jeff, please come to school out of these fellows,
Alex begged Jeff as he spoke in front of the crowd of bad boys. However, Alex ended up being badly beaten by Jeff's gang. Nevertheless, Alex's efforts seem to have paid off, as Jeff eventually attended school afterward, and even went on to high school. I had no idea about Jeff's past, so I was simply taken aback.
It seems Jeff doesn't remember me anymore, but it's good to hear that he somehow managed to turn over a new leaf and work earnestly. However, dealing with you, his newlywed wife, isn't as easy.
It's clear even to outsiders that Jeff and I don't have a normal marital relationship. Thinking about it fills me with embarrassment and a sense of shame. I'm truly embarrassed to think that even strangers can tell that our marriage is unusual. Alex lightly shook his head in response to my words.
No, it's not you who's unusual. It seems like Jeff is neglecting you in some way.
As he said that, I also started to feel the same way. For some reason, I felt like I could confide in Alex about anything. Is it because he's a doctor? Does he offer support to his patients' families in times like these? Thinking about it made me feel somewhat apologetic. I'm sorry, Alex. I didn't mean to drag you into our private matters.
Oh, no worries. Right now, I'm not here as a doctor, but as a fellow human being talking to you. While I used to confront Jeff about his bad behavior back then, now there's a different reason why I can forgive him.
At that moment, I couldn't quite grasp the meaning behind Alex's words. A different reason? I asked, to which Alex responded with a shy smile.
Well, let's put that aside for now. If you ever find yourself confused about Jeff, feel free to talk to me about anything. I might be able to help in some way.
I began to feel like I could confide in Alex, who listened to me empathetically. He knows a lot about Jeff's past. So, I thought if I told him about my current situation, he might find a way to help solve my problems. I told him in detail about the situation from the time I met Jeff until now. Alex listened silently and attentively, furrowing his brow with a serious expression.
Something seems off. What was Jeff thinking when he got together with you?
I'm not really sure about his feelings. As I answered, tears welled up in my eyes. Talking to someone made me realize that I was living a life that didn't satisfy me.
Got it. Just leave it to me for now.
I felt sorry for inconveniencing others with my situation. However, I couldn't help but rely on Alex's kindness, and my heart was filled with happiness. With Alex's support, I resolved to somehow deal with the ambiguous relationship with Jeff. The next day, I visited Jeff's hospital room from morning. Alex had informed me that Jeff's post-operative condition was stable, so I wanted to talk to Jeff. However, Jeff remained facing the window even when I visited. He refused to make eye contact. Nevertheless, I was determined to get to the truth and asked Jeff, "Why did you keep silent until now? With such a large tattoo, it was bound to be revealed sooner or later. Were you planning to hide it without establishing a marital relationship?" Jeff fell silent at my question. Then, he muttered in a low voice,
"Because I thought you'd run away from me, too?"
"What do you mean?" When I pressed him, Jeff began talking about his past relationships with women. According to his story, all the women who dated Jeff broke up with him as soon as they saw his tattoo. Jeff gives off the impression of a good young man who works earnestly. No one could have imagined that he had a large demon tattoo on his back. The fearsome demon on his back looked as if he belonged to some sort of nefarious organization. You were only on the wrong path until middle school, right? Why didn't you get rid of the tattoo when you turned your life around? When I questioned him, Jeff glared sharply and shouted,
"I just didn't want this tattoo off."
"Why not?" I wanted to know the truth from Jeff, but he didn't seem inclined to answer. Instead, Jeff turned the tables on me.
"Forget about that. How does Sarah know about my middle school days? I don't remember ever telling you about that."
I heard about your middle school days from the person who was the student council president back then.
"Is that Alex?"
Jeff seemed to remember Alex. But why did he keep silent even though he recognized Alex? Alex had desperately tried to reform Jeff. Even though Alex clearly remembered you, why didn't you even say a word of thanks? He helped you reform, didn't he? I questioned Jeff, who tilted his head in confusion.
"What are you getting at? I turned over a new leaf because one of my buddies died in a motorcycle accident. I decided to live longer for his sake and quit riding bikes to live a straight life. This tattoo is something I got with him like a memento.
The truth about the tattoo was revealed. Still, I couldn't shake off a feeling of dissatisfaction with Jeff's explanation. Why, Alex went out of his way to help you reform, despite facing resistance from your friends. It's awful of you to talk like it doesn't matter.
Shut up! Why do you keep siding with Alex? Do you have a thing for him or something?
Jeff confronted me like that, but I didn't feel guilty about it at all. After all, there's no reason for Jeff to be jealous while we're in such an unconventional marital relationship. I decided it was time to clarify things, so I asked Jeff directly. Don't you like me? Why did we even get married in the first place?
Well,
Jeff seemed at a loss for words. I stared at Jeff with an expression that said I wouldn't budge until I got a clear answer. Well, spit it out.
So, it's just that I lost both my parents over the past 2 to 3 years, and there's no one to take care of the household chores anymore. So, I figured I needed to get married to have someone to do that for me.
To do that. I was shocked to learn the truth about why he married me. Feeling like I didn't want to talk about it anymore, I left the hospital room. As I exited, Alex was standing there. He guided me to the lobby, saying that Jeff shouldn't hear our conversation.
It turned out just as I suspected. Shall we proceed with the plan?
Yes. I decided to put into action what Alex had suggested, considering the worst-case scenario. 2 weeks passed. Today is the day Jeff is being discharged. However, since then, I haven't visited Jeff's hospital room even once, although I heard he was being discharged. I've been busy at work for these past 2 weeks. While Jeff was hospitalized, I had to handle various procedures as the acting president of the company. Even after Jeff is discharged, he'll have to rest at home for a while. Therefore, I prepared a day's worth of meals in the morning and continued working until the evening. Since Jeff's hospitalization, he and I have grown even more distant. With fewer face-to-face encounters, there's been less opportunity for us to argue. However, for the work I'm currently trying to carry out, it's actually better if I don't have to face Jeff. About a month after his discharge, Jeff, whose health had significantly improved, visited the company. As soon as Jeff entered the company, he looked around in astonishment at the drastic changes that had taken place internally. I discreetly observed the situation from the back office.
What's going on? Everything, from the manufacturing machines to the desks for employees, it's all gone.
Employees, noticing Jeff's surprised voice, all approached him.
Thank you for everything you've done for us.
What's going on?
Jeff, unable to comprehend the situation, looked around anxiously. Seeing Jeff like that, the employees exchanged glances. Perhaps they were hesitating about who should break the news.
Well, actually, our company has been merged with Devon Industries in the same area. Starting tomorrow, we'll be re-employed there.
What? I never heard about this.
Jeff's voice, surprised by the news of the merger, echoed throughout the entire office. Sensing it was about time, I stepped out in front of everyone. "Oh dear, I'm sorry, Jeff. It was a sudden decision, so I couldn't inform you sooner."
What? How could you? A merger like this is a major issue, and it's common sense to consult with the president. Me first, isn't it?
Jeff's face turned red with anger. Well, that's true, but unfortunately, things have gotten complicated. Saying so, I showed Jeff a photo. It was taken by a former employee who recently left the company. A photo of Jeff changing secretly in the men's changing room. It clearly showed a large demon tattoo on his back. The man who took the photo thought that the president here might be involved in something shady, so he consulted with other employees before leaving the company. And now, all the employees here also harbor distrust towards Jeff. His tattoo issue aside, there's more to the reasons. Actually, since we got married, Jeff has been leaving all the troublesome procedures at work to me. And during work hours, he's been sneaking out of the company to go gambling. There had been eyewitness reports from the neighbors, so I already knew about it. The photo taken by the former employee in the changing room captured Jeff changing when there was nobody around. It turns out the evidence was captured because that employee was delayed due to personal matters. After learning everything, other employees expressed their desire to quit, but that's when I decided to inform everyone about the merger. One of the employees addressed Jeff, saying,
"Under someone like you, we can't continue. You push all the work onto your wife and act selfishly. And besides, having a flashy tattoo on your back, isn't that a question of integrity as a company executive?"
All the surrounding employees nodded in agreement. Jeff looked flustered and muttered softly,
"No, that's not it."
Well, more than that, you, who can't even cherish your wife, don't have the qualification to lead so many people.
Entering the room, it was Alex.
"Alex, why did you come all the way here? It's none of your business."
No, it's very much my business. I'm the one who recommended merging this place with our company.
What the hell?
Yes, it turns out the company we're merging with, Devon Industries, is run by Alex's brother as the CEO. So, Devon Industries is Alex's family business. Alex was empathetic, realizing that I shouldn't stay with Jeff any longer. Jeff falls short not only as a husband but also as a president. So I was burdened both personally and professionally. Taking all that into account, Alex came up with the plan this time. With both home and work suffering due to his negligence, Jeff found himself in a tough spot. Realizing he might lose everything, Jeff now showed a submissive attitude toward Alex.
"Can I talk to you about something? Could I possibly join a company, too?"
When I wondered what he was going to say, Jeff started asking Alex to hire him there. Everyone around gave Jeff disbelieving stares. Alex let out a sigh and placed his hand on Jeff's shoulder.
Well, in that case, there's no point in everyone leaving this company. Also, it's about time you let Sarah go. She deserves better than you.
Upon hearing this from Alex, Jeff quickly turned to me and interrogated.
"Sarah, are you saying you want to leave me? How am I supposed to live if you're gone?"
Looking at Jeff imploringly, I retorted, "I'm not the kind of person who can continue a superficial relationship like this. Just so you know, I'm neither your mother nor your maid. You need to learn to take care of yourself once you're on your own," I said firmly, leaving Jeff speechless. In that silence, I handed him the divorce papers, intending to finish it off. I decided to take Alex's advice and get a job as a caregiver at the hospital. I can support myself just fine from now on. So, let's get divorced. My words made Jeff suddenly flustered.
Divorce? No, wait a minute, please. Even if it's okay for you, I can't survive alone without a job. So?
Jeff, accept it. You think only about yourself without thinking about the other person's feelings. You need to be alone for a while and cool your head.
Alex scolded Jeff loudly. This seemed to shock Jeff, leaving him trembling and unable to respond. And so, I divorced Jeff and left the house. While working as a caregiver, I decided to stay in the apartment near the hospital for a while. My workplace is full of young practical nurses, and I was a little discouraged after I turned 40. However, finally freed from the difficult life, I felt relieved. From now on, I aim to work hard and lead an independent life. Jeff continues to live alone in the house after the divorce. As for the company, all the employees moved away after it was absorbed by Devon Industries. And the site of the company Jeff used to run is now just an empty lot. Jeff lost his job, but he still had his own house, so he shouldn't have to worry about rent. But when I walked past Jeff's house on my way to work, I could hear men and women screaming almost every day. Even late at night, no matter how late I pass by, I can still hear loud voices, so I asked the neighbors about it. According to the neighbors, Jeff is currently cohabitating with a woman. Perhaps because he lamented about not being able to live alone, he quickly found a new partner. However, the woman is said to be expressing dissatisfaction with Jeff to the neighbors. Jeff, who doesn't make any money and doesn't do any housework, seems to leave all the cooking, cleaning, and laundry to the women. The angry woman is probably complaining to Jeff and arguing with him every day. It seems they even throw things at each other during severe arguments, and the sound of glass breaking echoes throughout the neighborhood. Perhaps Jeff's concealed tattoos were discovered again at the beginning, and he's also being criticized for that. Men like Jeff seem to never learn, no matter who they end up with. The neighbors are apparently disturbed almost every day by the noise from Jeff's household until late at night. However, after a while, someone must have reported the noise disturbance to the police, and it seems Jeff was ordered to vacate the premises. According to the neighbors, the woman he was with also broke up with Jeff at the same time. By the way, I often see Jeff wrapped in a cardboard box in the park, probably because he hasn't even got a new job yet. With no fixed address, finding employment will be even more challenging for him. If he calls out to me, I will ignore him and run away. However, such worries will likely disappear in the future. I've been recognized for my work as a caregiver at the hospital, and after completing training, my salary has significantly increased. They probably took into account my over 20 years of experience as well. I also moved to a new apartment and bought a car, considering the night shifts. From now on, since I'll be commuting by car, it's unlikely I'll bump into homeless Jeff unless something extraordinary happens. I often run into Alex at work. Thanks to Alex, I've become able to think positively about life. Now, I feel like I've completely regained my true self. Actually, Alex has also experienced divorce once and is currently single. Many colleagues speculate that Alex and I might remarry. However, I think I'm content with my current life. And I guess Alex, with his carefree personality, probably feels the same. I don't think Alex and I, who are similar in many ways, will ever start a romantic relationship again, but I want to continue being good friends and getting along well at the same workplace. It's rare to find a friend with whom you can discuss anything at this age.
I sold it for $400,000, so I'm going on a trip abroad with my mistress.
John's voice was inappropriately cheerful, making me blurt out, "What?" He called me while he was in the hospital. He sold the house for $400,000. What does that mean? That was a cherished home I inherited from my dad. And to openly declare he has a mistress, that's just insane. What do you mean you sold the house? What about Lisa? As soon as I mentioned their daughter, John snorted with laughter.
I've always found her annoying. She acts so disrespectful towards adults. Of course, I'm leaving her behind.
What a thing to say about his own daughter. I was filled with rage and shock at the news of him selling the house and running away with his mistress. My mind was reeling. I have to stop John. Even if he says he sold the house, it can't be handed over that quickly. I have to do something. My name is Emily, a 39-year-old housewife. I wish I could say I live a content life with my husband, John, a year older than me, and our 9-year-old daughter, Lisa, but our relationship is far from harmonious. Since our marriage, John's personality has gradually twisted, and I suspect he has been cheating for a year now. Without proof, I've been helpless, but John hasn't been very secretive about his affair. John, who works in a factory, heads out to drink somewhere 4 or 5 days a week after work. It might be with coworkers, but he didn't used to go out as much until a year ago. Moreover, he comes home with a distinctive perfume scent and has been preparing expensive bags and shoes I've never seen before. Of course, they're not for me, but for someone else, as he leaves with these gifts time and again. I've been too scared to confront him about his cheating, remaining timid and unable to act until I can gather proof. He's like a completely different person from the one I met. John and I met 10 years ago, got married after a year of dating. Drawn in by his kind and gentlemanly demeanor, and before I knew it, I was in love. He proposed on our first anniversary, and soon after, Lisa was born. It looked like a very happy marriage from the outside. Why did things turn out this way? The troubles began when Lisa turned 1. She became more active and curious about everything in the house, making childcare increasingly difficult. I was a full-time housewife and took care of Lisa all day. But sometimes I needed help from John when he finished work with bathing and meals. John helped with childcare at first because he was aware of being a father, but as it continued every day, he gradually became disgusted and stopped trying to get involved in childcare.
I've been thinking, isn't this your job? You're the full-time housewife, so you should be able to handle the childcare on your own. Why does a tired man like me have to help out?
Exploding with frustration, John spat out these harsh words and quickly retreated to his bedroom, leaving Lisa and me in the living room. I was deeply hurt by his words as I tried to calm down Lisa, who was going through her tantrum phase and crying about wearing her pajamas. After that, John completely stopped interacting with Lisa. Even when she asked him to play on his days off, saying, "Daddy, let's play," he would reply, busy reading his racing magazine, playing his mom's job, "I'm busy right now." He never really listened to Lisa's feelings. Lisa cried, "No."
Hey, don't cry over something like this. What kind of upbringing is Emily giving you? A full-time housewife who can't even handle childcare. How incompetent.
He would say, glaring at Lisa and me in turn. I didn't want Lisa to hear such harsh words from John, so we had to go back to our room and play together. Even I want to read and watch movies, but living closely with Lisa means I hardly have time for myself. Yet John enjoys his hobby, horse racing, while I have to endure his verbal abuse. It's just not fair. But since our household depends on John's income, I couldn't complain. Without him, I wouldn't be able to provide for Lisa on my own. I was frustrated with myself. So John has been disinterested in parenting, living as he pleases. 8 years have passed, and Lisa is now 9 years old. John's harsh words never ceased, and the kind John from before is nowhere to be seen. I've been living with him solely for Lisa's sake, trying my best not to upset him.
Mom, you're good at drawing. You should do it as a job.
One day, while drawing with Lisa, she suddenly said this. Really? A job in drawing?
I think your drawings are gentle and really beautiful.
Lisa laughed cheerfully at the animal illustrations I had drawn. I've always enjoyed drawing, and there was a time when I even aimed to be a cartoonist. Realizing midway that the path to becoming a cartoonist was too tough, I gave up, but I still draw illustrations as a hobby.
Lisa, I always show your drawings to my friends, Ashley and Samantha, and brag about them. They both say they're amazing and wish they had a mom who could draw like that.
Despite her father, John, being difficult, Lisa has grown up to be honest and straightforward. Her personality is bright and the total opposite of my more introverted nature. She seems to have many friends at school and is favored by her teacher. I felt so proud that Lisa appreciated my drawings. Thinking that Lisa notices me boosted my confidence. Thank you. That means a lot to me. When I said that, Lisa smiled like a blooming flower again. Seeing Lisa smile makes me think I can keep enduring this life. I thought this quietly to myself. That night, John, as usual, came home drunk, collapsing in the living room right after entering. He was drunk. His drinking had become frequent, worryingly so. I sighed and pulled his jacket off the slumped over John, checking his pockets. What's this? Normally finding nothing but keys in his pocket, this time a piece of paper caught my attention. It was a receipt with a hotel name on it, clearly visible. This is definite proof of his cheating. I had been suspecting infidelity, but now I had physical evidence. Trying to calm my uneasy heart, I carefully stashed the receipt on a shelf. Then I started to think about how to confront John. The next day, still partly drunk, John left the house. After Lisa went to school, I was doing household chores as usual, but I couldn't stop thinking about yesterday's receipt. I had a hunch John was cheating, and it was my choice not to confront him about it. But now with concrete evidence, it's hard to continue pretending and live as a married couple in name only. Within a week, no, in a few days, I want to make him admit his infidelity and get an apology. But how should I do it? As I was pondering this, my phone started to vibrate. Who could it be at this time? It was unusual to get a call during the day. Looking at my phone, I saw an unfamiliar number. With a sense of foreboding, I answered the call.
Hello, is this Mrs. Murphy?
Yes, that's me, but who is this?
This is from State General Hospital. I'm afraid John has been brought in by ambulance.
The call was from the biggest hospital in the area. The hospital staff explained that John had been brought in for emergency surgery due to a kidney issue, and that he would likely need a transplant as his condition was severe. Confused by the sudden news, I was asked by the doctor, "Are you all right?" Yes, can he do that kidney transplant?
Yes, we'll start looking for a donor immediately if we find a match.
Okay.
Then we can proceed with the transplant surgery.
Suddenly hearing that John was sick and needed a kidney transplant, my mind was in turmoil, but the doctor continued to explain the transplant procedure.
We'll start checking for compatibility with potential donors. So please cooperate with this.
I only understood half of what the doctor said, but it was clear John was in a serious condition. Despite his mistreatment and infidelity, I didn't wish for him to lose his life. I wanted him to survive if possible. I spent that night thinking about John's transplant surgery. After a few weeks, we found out the results for potential kidney donors, mostly family. To my surprise, I was the best match. John's parents were still alive but in poor health, unable to undergo surgery. As an only child and being in good health and blood type compatible, it turned out I was the best option for John. I'd be lying if I said I didn't hesitate. But I couldn't compare that to John's life. With that in mind, I decided to become John's kidney donor. When I explained to Lisa about John's condition and the transplant, she cheerfully said, "Got it. Take care and do your best." While I was hospitalized, Lisa would stay with her grandparents. Though they were in poor health, they were mostly able to manage at home. Lisa was happy to stay with her grandparents as she got along well with them. At least I can be at ease for a while. It's good that Lisa is such an understanding child. Relieved, I went ahead with the transplant surgery. A week later, after signing the consent forms and undergoing health checks, I underwent the kidney transplant for John. The surgery was surprisingly straightforward, and I was in the hospital for about a week, while John stayed for about 10 days. Fortunately, there were no major health issues, and the recovery was smooth. The day before I was discharged, my phone rang again. Wondering who it could be this time, I answered.
Hello, it's me.
I heard a familiar voice and felt a shiver. It was John himself. Thinking he might thank me for being a donor, I asked, "Long time no see. How are you feeling post-surgery?" I expected him to say something like, "Thanks, Emily, I'm feeling better." But what I heard next was unexpected.
"I'd like to talk about our house."
John paused, suddenly bringing up the house, and I was taken aback.
"I sold it for $400,000, so I'm going on a trip abroad with my mistress."
John's voice was inappropriately cheerful, making me blurt out, "What?" He called during his hospital stay to say he sold the house for $400,000. What does that mean? That was a cherished home I inherited from my father, and to openly declare he has a mistress, that's just insane. What do you mean you sold the house? What about Lisa? As soon as I mentioned her daughter, John snorted with laughter.
"I've always found her annoying. She acts so disrespectful towards adults. Of course, I'm leaving her behind."
What a thing to say about his own daughter. I was filled with rage and shock at the news of him selling the house and running away with his mistress. My mind was reeling. I have to stop John. Even if he says he sold the house, it can't be handed over that quickly. I have to do something. John had already hung up the phone after saying going on a trip with his mistress. I was trying to make sense of what had happened with my confused mind. But no matter how much I thought about it, I couldn't believe he would sell our house, especially during his hospital stay. Shocked, my condition worsened, and my hospital stay was extended by a few days. Feeling utterly defeated, I lay on my bed, helplessly thinking about the future. I should call Lisa first. Without the house, Lisa and I would have nowhere to go. The bold declaration of having a mistress was infuriating, but what concerned me most was Lisa. I called the home of John's parents, and his mother answered. She quickly put Lisa on the phone. Hello, Lisa. I'm sorry. It looks like my hospital stay is going to be longer. Are you okay? Not too lonely. I heard about your dad selling the house. We don't have a place to go back to now. I rapidly asked, worried about Lisa. Then Lisa answered with a bright voice.
Mom, it's okay. I've taken care of it.
What? I was puzzled by Lisa's words about having taken care of it.
Dad told me he asked his mistress to sell the house, but actually, Grandma and Grandpa.
Lisa detailed the events that had occurred during my hospital stay. I was stunned, as unexpected developments had unfolded without my knowledge.
So, Mom, just rest easy. I'm okay.
Thank you. Lisa's responsible words encouraged me, and I finally managed to calm down a bit. However, if what Lisa was saying was true, I wondered what was happening with John and his mistress now. Curious, but reminding myself that rest was crucial, I fell asleep. 3 days later, fully recovered, I headed to my in-laws' house.
Mom, welcome back.
Lisa ran up to me with a happy face, with Grandma smiling softly behind her.
Speaking of which, John really did something outrageous. I'm sorry, Emily.
My father-in-law apologized to me with a stern face. With such wonderful parents, why did John turn out this way? No, it's my fault for going along with everything without saying anything.
Thank you. Now, there's something we need to tell you, Emily.
Yes, what is it? I sat down with Lisa to listen to my in-law's story. Though surprised again, mother-in-law's assertive encouragement that they wouldn't let John have his way gave me some relief. After hearing the story from my in-laws, Lisa and I were about to head home when I noticed a familiar man and an unfamiliar woman having a dispute in front of a real estate office. It was unmistakably John, and the woman with him had to be his mistress. John was in sweats, his hair a mess, and his mistress was in a short skirt and one high heel, barefaced.
Hey, fix this. How come the house isn't selling?
What about my $400,000?
Well, the buyer canceled last night, so there's no deal anymore.
Why the cancellation? Damn it.
John was stomping his feet, and his mistress was shrieking beside him, drawing startled looks from passersby. Lisa and I were shocked, but realized it was about us, and we approached John and his mistress. What are you doing here? Startled by my sudden approach, John and his mistress exclaimed in surprise.
Oh, it's you. I get it. You did this, didn't you? You convinced the buyer not to go through with it.
That's ridiculous. What are you even talking about?
As John and his mistress hurled insults, I shielded Lisa behind me. The real estate agent was bewildered, so I stepped forward and said, I'm his wife. The agent responded with a stunned "Oh."
Are you kidding me with this cancellation? Because of you, we had to turn back right before getting on the plane, and now we can't buy a new house. And there's the debt I incurred for her.
John pointed at his mistress when he mentioned her. So, that's it. Now I understand John's scheme. He tried to sell the house to pay the debt of the money he had spent on his mistress and to buy a new house to live in with her. How selfish of him to know that this is a precious house that I inherited from my late father. He was ignoring me and Lisa and trying to steal my most important asset. I was trembling with anger. Don't you think you're the one being disrespectful here?
Showing up out of nowhere and talking back to me. You can't even eat properly without me.
I continued my words, disgusted by John, who was abusing me. First off, do you really think you can sell my cherished home without consulting me? I'm the owner of that house. Did you forge some documents or what? And you've been bad-mouthing the buyer, but you should know the buyers were your parents.
What?
What's going on?
Indeed, during my hospital stay, I learned from Lisa over the phone that my in-laws pretended to buy the house to teach John a lesson. They were furious after hearing about John's misdeeds from Lisa, saying it's unbelievable what he has done to Emily and our dear granddaughter. My in-laws believed Lisa's words over their sins due to her cheerful and honest nature.
I'll explain. Grandpa and Grandma knew about Dad and his mistress and were very angry. I knew Dad was trying to sell the house and consulted with them. The house is an important one that my mom inherited, and they said it shouldn't be sold so easily. So, they tried to buy it themselves before anyone else could.
Lisa confidently stepped forward to narrate the events.
What the hell are they doing to their own son? Damn old man and woman. And you too, ya child meddling in adult affairs shows what poor parenting you've had.
John, losing his composure, scoffed. Lisa remained composed against John's outburst. I pulled out a document from my bag, thrusting it in front of his nose. Sorry, but we're getting a divorce? Seeing the divorce papers, John snorted again.
Divorce? You said it. You think you can live without me?
He must have thought that as a stay-at-home mom, I'd be lost without him. Perhaps that was true before. But now, I have a trump card. I spoke up to shatter John's shallow thinking. No need to worry. Your parents have decided to give me a pre-death gift.
Pre-death gift?
What's that? John and his mistress were bewildered. Indeed, this morning, my in-laws told me about a pre-death gift. Before it was too late, as their health was failing. They wanted to give me a part of their assets. I initially refused, thinking the gift should go to John. However, they insisted we care more about Emily, who gave birth to and raised our wonderful granddaughter, than our son who can't even thank you for the organ donation. I agreed to the pre-death gift from them. It's your parents' wish. They wanted to give it to me, not you. I told John, whose face turned pale. That's probably true. He was shocked to lose the assets that should have been his to his soon-to-be ex-wife.
That's dirty. That's not right. It's normal for children to inherit their parents' assets. I'll talk to them. If they don't listen, I'll sue.
John glared at me with fiery eyes, shouting. I sighed at his shallow thinking. Maybe it's time to end this. Stepping forward, I met John's gaze and declared, what you're saying is absurd. You ridiculed me and even got a mistress, didn't you? It's your fault for spending the money, right? Your parents made the right decision. And do you even have the money for a lawsuit? How will your past betrayals look in court? John let out a shriek, visibly shaken by my assertive presence.
Sorry, I won't sue. Please forgive me.
He begged desperately, but it was too late. I glared at John one last time and stated firmly, you will pay the alimony and child support for insulting Lisa and me. If you can't pay, I'll pursue it to the ends of the earth. Be prepared. John and his mistress screamed and ran away. The real estate agent, having witnessed everything, thanked me with a wobbly stance. Thank you so much. No, I'm really sorry for causing such trouble. Feeling awkward, I took Lisa's hand and we went back home.
Mom, you were awesome.
And so were you, Lisa. Thank you for standing up for me. Despite the situation, Lisa's face was smiling. I vowed in my heart to protect her for life. A few days later, I was able to successfully divorce John. The long-endured marriage ended with just a piece of paper, making me wonder why I had put up with it for so long. John had really squandered his money on his mistress and ended up borrowing to pay the alimony. The mistress left him, saying, "I can't stay with such a poor man." Adding to his misfortune, John's company had to reduce staff due to decreased sales from material shortages. Working in the factory, John was one of the first to be laid off. It's sad, but it's hard to believe there was no reason for his dismissal. Probably, the company let go of those who were performing poorly or had bad behavior first. John, who used to boss around at home, must have had the same attitude at work. Now jobless, loverless, and wifeless, John is scraping by with odd jobs. His days must be bleak, devoting himself to part-time work that allows him to rest whenever he likes, lacking the energy to seek proper employment. But I felt no sympathy for him. I had done all I could by donating part of my kidney to him. It seemed like karma for how he belittled me. He should just work hard to pay off his debts. As for me, I started making a living with the assets inherited from my in-laws and began working as an illustrator. It all started when Lisa complimented me on how good I was at drawing. While the orders are still few, my clients say my work is meticulous and skilled. I plan to increase my clientele and raise Lisa proudly.
I'm Ashley, 28 years old. I got married to a colleague who had been working at the same company before me, about 2 years ago. My husband Noah, who is 2 years older, was the one who made the first confession of love. We couldn't have children for a while after getting married, but thinking it was about time given our ages, we started trying to conceive and successfully became pregnant. We're expecting the baby by the end of this year. Now that my morning sickness has settled, I've entered the stable mid-pregnancy stage, so I'm starting to think about various preparations for childbirth. I lost my parents early, so I am deeply grateful to his parents, George and Madeline. They are also eagerly looking forward to the birth of their first grandchild. They live quite in the countryside, so we don't get to meet often, but they always say, "You have to take good care of yourself. Make sure you eat well to give birth to a healthy baby, and send us nutritious foods and fresh vegetables and fruits they grow themselves." Thanks to them, I've recently gained a bit of weight, probably because I've been enjoying too many fresh veggies and fruits now that I'm in the stable period. I have an older sister. Her name is Patricia, 32 years old. She's already married and has a cute daughter. My 3-year-old niece, Emily. Noah's big brother, Harry, who is the same age with Patricia, adores her and is already declaring, "I'm not letting her marry off, and anyone who asks for her hand in marriage, I'll knock him out." Patricia just laughs it off, saying, "Silly, isn't he?" Well, it's a lively but good family. Now that I'm pregnant, my sister has become a great mentor, offering me advice.
Ask me anything you don't know, okay?
Since she's experienced, I'm looking forward to learning a lot from her. She also has some baby items she no longer uses, which could help with our expenses. When I go to the gynecologist, my sister Patricia accompanies me. Our doctor, Victoria, is a seasoned female physician. She is kind and trustworthy. Once, we even had Noah join in for a lecture.
First of all, the pregnant woman is the center of everything. Her needs come first.
Oh yeah, is that so?
Noah looked nervous.
Of course, I'm not saying the husband should do all the housework. Pregnant women need some exercise too. However, you shouldn't let her carry heavy items or reach for things on high shelves. Let her exercise moderately, but don't overdo it. That's the basic rule.
I see.
Noah nodded to the doctor's explanation. Don't worry, I can handle cooking and shopping. So, it would help if you could assist with cleaning and laundry. I straightforwardly asked Noah for help.
Well, that's not much different from now. Leave the heavy shopping to me.
He responds with a smile. It makes me genuinely happy that Noah is so proactive in saying such things. I quit my job after getting married, and now I work part-time at a local supermarket, cashiering and stocking shelves for about 3 to 4 hours, 3 days a week, which is easy on my body. Many coworkers who have given birth before are considerate and offer advice. Recently, Noah's job has become busier. Since we worked at the same company, I am familiar with what he does. It's a clerical work, so except for the fiscal year end, there shouldn't be much overtime.
I've been busy because I started a new department. I was put in charge along with some younger colleagues, and they made me the leader.
But I'm worried about him overdoing it.
I have to try hard because I'm going to be a dad.
Just don't overdo it.
Yeah, I'm taking breaks appropriately, so I'm okay.
He reassured me. Then, one day, I got a call from my cousin.
Hey Ashley, I need some advice.
His name is Thomas. He is 2 years younger than me and just got married last year. His wife is Alice. They were classmates and have been dating since high school. He recently found out she's pregnant and often consults me, since I have a bit more experience. So, what do you want to know?
Well, Alice's morning sickness is really bad, and it's hard to watch because she's suffering. She can't eat anything because she can't stand the smell of bread. What should I do?
Silly, isn't it? If she can't eat bread, let her eat cake, right?
That's like saying Let Them Eat Cake by Marie Antoinette, or a cake logic. Anyway, seriously, tell me, how were you at that time?
I just gave up on things that smelled bad and ate what I wanted to eat. Also, I made sure to drink plenty of fluids. Oh yeah, having mint-flavored chewing gum or candy helped me feel better.
Okay, got it. Thanks, Ashley. If anything else comes up, I'll call you.
If my older sister Patricia is mentoring me about childbirth, then my cousin Thomas is my protege. Our houses are close, and since he runs his own business, it's easy for him to find time. So we had many opportunities to meet even before he was married. On the other hand, my husband Noah started working more weekends, saying it was due to his job. He wanted to sort through the documents he collected during the week all at once on his days off. Lately, we've been spending less time together, and I've felt Noah's attitude changing. One night, upset about his frequent holiday work, I complained. Can't you do something about work? You said you'd support me with the housework, but I'm doing it all. My belly has grown so much that even cutting my nails has become a challenge.
This is an important time for my job. Couldn't you support me a bit?
Instead of just ignoring my requests, he started demanding support from me. I understand, but it's hard for me too. My belly is already this big.
I'm trying hard for our child too. Don't just push your own agenda on me. And
what?
I heard you've been meeting a man outside recently.
What? A man? Oh, that's just my cousin Thomas. He helps me with shopping when you're not around.
Cousin, really? It seems like you've been meeting him several times for a while now.
He's family, so of course we meet.
Well, just bear with it a little longer.
We remained somewhat strained as the due date approached. Then the labor pains started, and I headed to the hospital. Patricia accompanied me to the hospital.
The birth canal is already open, so let's go straight to preparations for delivery. After you give birth, you'll be admitted for postnatal care.
Patricia contacted Noah, but he said he was too busy with work to attend the birth or help with the hospital preparations. So, Patricia took care of all the hospital preparations. 5 hours after arriving at the hospital, I successfully gave birth to a baby boy. Despite the excruciating pain, the midwife said it was a very smooth delivery, and seeing my baby's cute face even made me think it was a good experience. That night, Noah came to the hospital.
Give Ashley some praise for her hard work. You should hold him too.
The doctor Victoria spoke to Noah with a smile. I was exhausted in bed, but I imagined Noah's happy face. However, Noah didn't smile and remained silent even as he looked at the baby. Then, Noah muttered something.
Is this really my child?
What? What are you saying? Is that your first question? I was dumbfounded.
He'll grow on her.
Trying to compose myself, I followed up with what Victoria had said. This is our child. Let's work hard to raise him. Even so, Noah was expressionless. Then, suddenly, he said,
Doctor, I have a request. Please do a DNA test on the baby.
What? I was speechless at Noah's words. For a moment, I didn't understand what was happening. Considering a DNA testing, does he really doubt he's the father? That's ridiculous. Victoria was also taken aback.
Well, we can do that, but that's not something you should say on the day of the birth.
She tried to dismiss him, but
Please, by all means.
Noah was adamant and requested the test. Do you doubt me? That's terrible. Really terrible. Postpartum pain forgotten. I shouted loudly.
I just want to know the truth. If it confirms the child is really mine, that's all that matters. I'll be relieved. Or is there some reason you're worried about the test?
Is he suggesting I have something to hide? Really terrible. I'm not asking for gratitude, but demanding a DNA test all of a sudden is the worst. Sensing the futile argument brewing, Victoria intervened.
Let's do the test.
She agreed, albeit reluctantly. I was unhappy, but since I knew the child was definitely mine and Noah's, I decided to accept the challenge if he insisted that far. When Noah left the room, I broke down in tears. I had thought Noah would be happy. Instead, the fact that he doubted me enough to demand a DNA test. Later, as Noah had requested, we did the DNA test and decided to discuss the results when Noah visited the hospital the following weekend. On the day of the report, Noah appeared unusually calm. In the hospital room, Victoria pulled out the report.
I'll just tell you the conclusion.
Okay.
The result of the test shows that the likelihood that Noah is the father of the boy is...
Victoria paused to take a breath, then announced.
0%. This child is not Noah's biological son.
What? I was speechless and nearly fainted. That can't be. I can't think of any reason why. Yet, how could this be? My mind went blank. Noah smirked and said,
I knew it.
Then he said triumphantly,
You're trying to pin a child from an affair on me, aren't you?
And then he pointed at me.
I want a divorce. You're entirely to blame. I'm going to demand a hefty alimony, so be prepared.
With those parting words, he left the hospital room. I was left utterly dumbfounded. I consulted with Patricia and Thomas. Patricia listened to my story quietly and then became indignant.
Being falsely accused like this, it's no joke. We need to give him a taste of his own medicine.
Yeah, I've got it all covered, so you can rest easy. Ashley,
Thomas said, smirking confidently.
This isn't a comforting conversation.
Patricia was angry.
Yeah, right.
Thomas chuckled, seemingly amused. I couldn't tell if they were serious or just enjoying my misfortune. Later, I got a call from Noah.
I've decided to go through with the divorce. My parents agreed to. I'm the victim here, so I'll be seeking alimony. Maybe around $30,000.
I'm thinking of leaving it to a lawyer. Is that okay? I informed him.
Fine, but you're paying for the childbirth expenses yourself. I'm not spending a dime on someone else's kid.
Have it your way.
Yeah, I will do as I please. I'm a stranger now. If you can't pay the alimony, I'll take the house and land. As the victim, I have that right.
Noah was adamantly aggressive. That house and land are inheritance from my deceased parents.
I don't care. Anyway, I'm busy preparing for the divorce. I'll contact you again.
I reported Noah's call to Patricia and then we proceeded with our next plan. I was soon to be discharged from the hospital, and my cousin Thomas came to pick me up in his car.
Good job. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling much better, but I have to keep going for this little one's sake. I gazed down at the small life wrapped in a baby blanket.
Right, I've got it all covered. Let's give that no of yours double, no, triple payback.
We talked about this as we arrived home. My house, which I hadn't seen in a while, looked completely different. Noah had moved all his belongings out. The empty room only had the baby items I had prepared left behind. And there was a note from my husband. The note read, "I'm leaving the house. I won't come back. I'm not returning to my parents' house either, so don't bother looking for me. Only contact me if necessary." If he wasn't going back to his parents' house, I knew where he was headed. Really, he's quick with things like this. I sighed in exasperation. Shortly after, I received a call from Noah. Perfect timing. As soon as I answered, Noah yelled out,
What do you think you're doing? Sending that stuff to my office.
"Oh, about that. Well, since you wouldn't tell me where you are, I had to send it to your office, right?" I responded nonchalantly.
How could you? My boss demanded an explanation, and I had to tell him about our divorce. Thanks to you, the whole office knows, and now everyone is looking at me strangely.
It seemed my plan had indeed caused a stir around Noah. "It's none of my concern. You saw the contents, right? Make sure you come to the lawyer's office. Don't try to run away."
Woo's running away. You'd better be prepared to. I'm ready to fight this through.
Apparently, the notice of content arranged by the lawyer had reached his company. I can just imagine Noah panicking. Yes, Noah's encirclement is nearly complete. And then, we had a discussion about the divorce at the lawyer's office. Noah's parents were also present. I was accompanied by my sister Patricia and her husband. Her husband is Harry. Harry, who works in construction, treats me like his own sister. And then the discussion began. Ashley cheated and had a child, then tried to pass it off as mine and raise it on my money. This is highly malicious, so I demand not only alimony but also compensation for the house and land in Ashley's name. This was Noah's main reason and condition for the divorce. Oh wow, he's quite bold. I was fully prepared and at ease. The lawyer explained.
We understand your story. However, even if the divorce is due to infidelity, property division will occur. And don't expect all your demands to be met. If there's a disagreement between the two of you, it's my job to mediate. I will make a fair judgment based on the facts. Please understand that.
If that's the case, then justice is on my side. Having an affair and giving birth to someone else's child is practically fraud. Should we call the police?
Ashley, that's terrible. We were happy about having a grandchild, and to find out it's not Noah's child.
Doing this makes me sad. The most pitiful one is the child who was born, right? Please make amends and at least raise the child properly.
They all spoke up.
No matter if a lawyer gets involved, what you did can never be forgiven. I'm entirely innocent and a victim. It's crucial how much Ashley reflects and apologizes to me. How about it? Do you feel remorse and are you ready to apologize?
Noah seemed entirely convinced of his victory. Now's the time. No. The one who needs to reflect and apologize is you, Noah.
What did you say?
Taken aback by my unexpected counterattack, Noah stood up suddenly. I continued calmly. Just give it up. I know everything.
What are you saying? I know who your affair partner is. I'll demand alimony from him too.
I decided it was time to present my trump card. Actually, I've invited someone here.
Who is it? One of your accomplices.
Noah shouted, fully ready for battle. I said in a teasing tone. You're not too bright, are you? I'm the victim here, so it's the witness.
A witness?
Thank you for waiting. Please, come in. As I spoke, two people entered through the door. Noah's mouth hung open in shock.
You are. And you are.
Yes, it's Victoria, the gynecologist, and my cousin Thomas.
Hello.
Victoria greeted.
Nice to meet you. I'm Ashley's cousin, Thomas.
Thomas introduced himself.
This guy is Ashley's affair partner. You're cousins, and you had a child together.
Please don't say such rude things. I live nearby, and I was just consulting because my wife Alice is pregnant. I've always seen Ashley like a friend, never as a woman.
Hey, that's a bit rude, isn't it, Thomas? I'll have to scold you later.
I'd like to say my piece soon.
Victoria interjected with a wry smile. Sorry, Victoria, please go ahead. I urged her to explain.
Thank you. So, to put it simply, the baby is undoubtedly Noah's and Ashley's child, according to the DNA test results.
What?
Noah exclaimed in shock.
But at that time, you said it wasn't my child.
You bribed the lab technician to falsify the results. When my husband, who is the hospital's chairman, confronted the technician, he broke down crying and confessed everything. We even recorded that confession.
I might confess to if confronted by her husband.
Damn it.
Noah bit his lip.
Patricia thought the test results were suspicious and brought your hair to request another test. Normally, we don't do that, but I got convinced after talking to her, Ashley's sister, and the retest confirmed the baby is indeed both of yours. And the technician who colluded with you has been fired. It's a matter of our hospital's credibility.
George was shocked by this.
Noah, why would you do such a thing?
George stood up and confronted Noah.
That's,
Instead of Noah, Patricia answered for him.
That's because Noah was the one having an affair?
What?
His parents gasped and were speechless.
When we went shopping in the city, Patricia saw Noah walking with an unknown woman. It was Saturday, and when she checked with Ashley, she said Noah was supposed to be working that day. So it seemed suspicious, and she asked Thomas to look into it.
Turn 2, Thomas said proudly.
Yeah, actually, I used to work part-time at a detective agency during my student days, so I'm good at investigations.
He began bragging.
And then we found plenty of evidence of the affair. Here's a recording of that time.
With that, Patricia played the voice recorder. It captured Noah and another woman's voices.
We'll get her DNA test and fake it as someone else's child. That way, it'll serve as evidence of the affair. There's a suitable guy. He's supposedly a cousin, but we have photos and can frame it as an affair. If it works out, I can push all the blame onto Ashley and get a divorce. I'll get alimony, and since she had a child, I can claim the house and land too. I'm the tragic hero. There's no problem with you and me being together. How's that? I'm a genius, right?
More like a villain than a genius, you know. You're like a bad guy from a drama, aren't you?
Their laughter followed on the recording. Stopping the recorder, Thomas added,
Your partner is a younger colleague from your own team at work.
Noah's face turned pale. With such compelling evidence presented, there was no room for him to argue.
Well, now that the facts are clear, it's my turn.
The lawyer said with a smirk. Then, pulling various documents from an envelope, he began to explain.
Here are Ashley's demands. She requests a divorce from Noah. She has stated that she will not pursue the matter of the DNA test falsification, so we will not address it here. We will seek alimony from Noah and the woman he was involved with. Additionally, we will demand property division and child support from Noah.
His parents were utterly stunned by the unexpected turn of events. Noah, intensely questioned by Patricia and me, was utterly devastated. I filled out the divorce papers, signed my part, and had Noah write his portion. The completed divorce papers were promptly submitted by the lawyer. After leaving the office, we celebrated with drinks at a nearby bar, and thus, I divorced Noah. I received a substantial amount in alimony and a lump sum for child support. By the way, I named my son Adam. It seems his parents had advanced the money. Noah was completely cut off from his parents. He is said to be repaying the debt little by little. Noah's affair partner was a woman from his company. Their affair during work hours came to light, and both were dismissed for violating company policies. Abandoned by that woman, he struggled to find new employment and is now working part-time at a gas station. I live with my son, Adam. He's still young, so I've taken a leave of absence to focus on childcare. It looks like we'll manage with the alimony for a while. Adam is adorable, and as I took photos and videos, my cousin Thomas edited them and uploaded them to a video site. This unexpectedly became quite popular. Thanks to the site's popularity, I even started earning money from the videos. The earnings were substantial, so I decided to save for Adam's future. My parenting is supported by those around me. Patricia, of course, and the ladies from my part-time job also helped. Especially the ladies, who would shop at the supermarket on my behalf when I couldn't go out. And the manager would deliver them to my home. In fact, the manager, who was also divorced, was encouraged by the ladies to get closer to me. When Adam turned 1, the manager proposed to me. Despite being a manager, he's down to earth, works hard, and treats everyone equally, which I really appreciated. Since he always delivered groceries to our home, it didn't take long for my fondness to turn into affection. I happily accepted his proposal. Adam had met him many times and was fond of him, and he seemed trustworthy because he cared about Adam. Although I accepted his proposal, we couldn't get married right away and went into a preparation period. Recently, Adam started calling him Dad. It seems I've managed to recapture the happiness I once let go. This time, I'm determined to hold on to this happiness tightly. As I watched Adam's peaceful sleeping face, I made this resolve: